Hi, ladies. So today I want to clarify something that I find it's really important. You know, when it comes to love and relationships, I am actually a very lazy woman. This means that I don't really like to put in so much effort when it comes to maintaining a relationship. And this might sound like, oh, but relationship, they require effort, right, Monica? So what are you actually talking about? Well, the effort that I believe that we should have when it comes to a relationship is more about learning relational skills so that you can create a safe emotional space so that you can both co-create an emotional connection that is most authentic, that is like really that the genuine bond and connection can actually develop. So what I mean by me being a lazy woman means that I don't really like to have to learn relational skills to how to make a man commit, how to make a man fall in love, how to make a man this and this and this. Like I like learning about relational skills and relationship tips and etc. Because well, relationship always fascinated me, and that's why I am working as a teacher, right, about relationships and feminine embodiment. But what I don't really like is when you have to put in so much effort to become this woman that has a mask, really, so that you become the perfect woman for this man in front of you. But then it has so much effort that where is the fun, really? And I really don't like it. It really annoys me a lot that nowadays there are so many relationship tips to tell you to be this and that, etc. Which actually, all those tips that are like scripts, they are telling you to do this, because they are telling you to basically emulate, to simulate the healthy behaviors of healthy people. But when you are doing so without true resonance and you're just following a script, then you are actually just performing. And what performance actually brings is that when you are doing performance, you are coming from a place of insecurity that, I need to do this so that I can be loved, so that the other person is attracted to me. But inherently, like underneath, you actually feel that you cannot bring in this authenticity because you feel that if you're authentic, then it's not enough, or the man in front of you might not like it. And you might think, oh, maybe my authenticity is that I am too anxious in a relationship, which this is actually not authenticity. Because if you're too anxious in a relationship, it means that you might feel there might be a reason for your insecurity, and that is actually not your real authenticity. But when you are doing the scripts, you often come from a place of insecurity, and what this actually energetically resonate and subconsciously resonate is with men who have complementary insecurities. So what happens is that women who act like unbothered, who act like this diva without much emotions, and I am not easy, I only respond to messages after a few hours, all those things, you are going to resonate with a specific kind of men who are actually looking to conquer a woman so that they can get validated. So men who are into this kind of women that are actually just giving them intermittent validation, actually, because if you are just giving them crumbs of attention so that you are not giving too much of yourself, then the men who are resonating with it and get hooked by it are insecure men that, oh, now I need to work hard to get this woman's attention, get her validation, because maybe these men in their childhood, they didn't have validation from their mothers or fathers, and now they grew up to learn that, okay, If this woman needs me to work to have her attention, then it's actually familiar, and then they don't even realize it, and then they feel turned on by this kind of woman until they feel that they conquered the woman, and now they lose this attraction because they already are validated. So if they are not falling in love with who you truly are, your true essence, then they are really not falling in love with you. And the moment the hook loses, and because unless you are prepared to, have this mask for the rest of your life to keep this man hooked, and it is very, very tiresome. And this is what I mean by me being a lazy woman. I don't want to wear this mask unless you are working as a sugar baby or a sex worker, consort. I don't know. Why do you have to put in so much work to do it? Wouldn't it be easier if you just create your own business or work with some company that pays you a lot? It might require less work, because if you are married to someone, it's like 24/7 work, unless he travels a lot, I don't know. But unless you are really aiming for those kind of results, then it's very tiring. And the moment you get vulnerable, you might lose him, because then he will say, oh, now she is like under my catch. Now I finally caught her. Now I finally got her. Now I don't, well, to my next conquest, because they haven't healed their pattern as well. And then they have fallen in love with the hook and not with you, basically. They have fallen in love with this woman who seems never really reachable. And that is not really good as well. So what happens is that when we lose authenticity and we cannot really be who we are in the relationship, and I don't mean to be this, oh, then I just show him all my anxieties and insecurities and all. Well, that is also not real authenticity, because your authenticity is actually behind all these fears and insecurities. But it is your fears and insecurities speaking, actually. So what you need is, of course, to first do the inner work, to work on your insecurities. And why do you feel insecure in certain ways? What do you truly need to feel secure in relationships? Because, for example, of course, you're going to feel insecure if you are involved in a situationship where the man is not very clear what they want. So in this case, why do you have to work so hard to decode what he really wants? Because he might not really even want to be with you or to be with anyone, because they might have past traumas that now they need to sort it out before they can even open their hearts to a real relationship. So when you have to work so hard to decode the other person and their attraction and etc., of course you're going to feel insecure. So maybe you need to ask, like, what is it that makes me feel secure to get into a relationship? Because sometimes it's also not just about, sitting in your corner and meditating, like, what in me is feeling this insecurity, but actually acknowledging that a woman's brain needs a certain level of emotional attunement and emotional safety within a relationship to actually feel safe, So, for example, I wouldn't get into one-night stands, casual relations that I feel that the other person wouldn't even respect me as a fellow human being. Then, of course, my nervous system naturally wouldn't feel safe. It's not about my past traumas and etc. It's about the situation itself. So then, when you can understand what you need and, okay, what is actually trauma and how to work with those, then you can bring in more of your authenticity. And where the learning of relational skills come is that you learn those so that you understand how to create a safe emotional space and how to communicate with each other in a better way. Because men and women, we are different. And I would recommend highly to read two books. One is called The Male Brain and the other is called The Female Brain. Both from the same author, I can't remember the name, but it's really good. And you will understand that the male brain and the female brain are different. And how we communicate, how we interact with each other, what we perceive is influenced by these differences. So when you learn about relational skills, well, when you learn about masculine and feminine polarity in the relationships, you learn this so that they support the growth of a relationship. So the connection, the love is the flower, okay? And without the flower, there's no point in having anything else. So the flower is the connection, while the pot is the structure and how you give the nutrients, for example, how much sunlight, how much water. All this is like learning relational skills. So you learn this to have the plant grow properly. But without the plant itself, it doesn't matter how many stuffs you have or learn and etc. Even if you have the beautiest vase, the pot for the plant, if you don't have to plant it, there's no point, okay? And this is why it is so important that learn the skills so that you can use it to nurture a relationship, a bond, a connection with someone authentically, genuinely. Because without the authenticity, you cannot really have a genuine connection. Like the connection is already limited, capped. And then learn the things, learn the skills so that you can understand how to nurture it. Okay? So my name is Monica and I am the teacher of Blooming Feminine Academy. And if you want to learn more about this, I have 2 courses that are actually very helpful. One is the Share Wish It Dream Girl course, which is actually my signature course that talks about the feminine embodiment, the flavors of our unique feminine essence within us. And one thing about the essence and archetypes, there are many archetypes out there, but my way of tapping into the essences goes even deeper than these archetypes, because I feel like just having a few archetypes and all doesn't really work. But I work with a certain symbolism that are very primal and the foundation of other symbolisms, basically. And that's actually very important because that covers a wide range of our characteristics as women. And then I also talk about the masculine and feminine polarity, like how the female brain works, the male brain, how it works, and how they work together in a relationship. And how to also intoxicate the man, the masculine, while you are learning all this, but all based on authenticity and embodiment. Because I saw so much, I learned so much, and what I realized is that we all are very unique. And I'm going to use the examples of, I don't know, boob size, okay? Like there are many boob size for women, okay? And we women, many of us tend to think that, oh, the man likes big boobs. And as someone with smaller boob, I never really truly bothered me. Like, of course, I sometimes would wonder, oh, I wanted bigger boobs. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it didn't really bother me. Why? Because I realized that from the internet, actually, there are many preferences. Like my initial realization, actually, like there are many preferences. You go search the darker corners of the internet, go to Reddit, I don't know, and you'll see the wide range of preferences. Like, oh my God, so enlightening. And you will see, like, I'm not just talking about body shapes, in terms of personality, there are like many preferences. Like you can never really get it wrong. Like one man might not value your personality, your body, whatever, but you might be another man's dream girl, okay? And like me, my body type, my personality, my traits, like I've always been like, I haven't been in many relationships, but I've always been like my partners, like really type, And yeah, I feel a bit embarrassed in talking about this because I'm still a bit shy, okay? And yeah, but like you don't have to work so hard when you're with a man that sees you already as his type and working so hard. And like me being a lazy woman, I also have this belief, this script in my mind is that either I am my man's type, the dream type, the perfect type, I am the love of his life, or I don't want it. Like, I want to be in this kind of romance, okay? I am this kind of woman, okay? I really want that, like this juicy relationship that I am his dream girl, period. I don't, if I feel that a man is not really interested in me, like in, early phase of knowing each other, to me it's a turn off. It's not Tracy, like why are we wasting our time together? And yeah, so I really hope that more women actually are, more like this because they don't know how they are some man's dream type. Like, don't waste your time with a man who doesn't really see you as their type or that they are just lukewarm because you are always someone's type and some other woman might be this man's type. Just, trust your intuition and trust that if a man is making you overthink too much, if when it comes to his attraction to you and etc., then it is because you guys are not really matching and he might just be going with the flow and you don't really want to waste time with it. Okay, like allow yourself to really dream bigger if you are not claiming this fully, and allow yourself to start with fantasizing about it at least, okay? And because it's really like juicier and I don't want it in any other way. And well, I also have another course. It's called Art of Feminine Communication and Influence, where I talk more about how to interact and communicate with each other. Because communication is not just about words, it's not just about what you say, what you talk, but also your body language and your energy. Like, how do you bring in a different kind of energy that is authentic and vulnerable and still get the other person to listen to you and to pay attention to you, to see you and not take you for granted? Because many people, they say, oh, just be this unbothered woman, like be this etc. But you don't need to be an unbothered woman to actually communicate with the other person. I am not an unbothered woman. I'll never really be. And I am an Aries, okay? And Aries, they are like kids, and sometimes. And I don't really like to have to hide my vulnerability. And why are we hiding our vulnerability? Because if we are like putting in this poker face, how do the men, especially the oblivious ones, how do they see like the impact of their actions, of their words on us? Like, then they might feel like, oh, maybe it doesn't really matter. Maybe it's not serious. She doesn't seem bothered. Just let them know how you feel. Like, if you're sad by something they said, just say like, honey, you really hurt my feelings when you said that. And I really don't like it. And at the same time, how you're not being taken for granted is you put boundaries. Like, see how he responds to your authentic vulnerability. And if he's really like dismissive or even disrespecting or etc., you just pull away your energy and you don't really over convince, over chasing, etc. You just say like, I feel like we cannot have this conversation right now and I feel really hurt by this. Maybe we can talk later, but right now I need some time alone. So you're not faking it, but you're clearly being vulnerable, being authentic, while having boundaries. And this is how you implement boundaries. You don't chase the man and explain, you need to take responsibility to what you said. But rather, like, show him that you're not going to do anything more. If he is disrespecting you even, and if he's dismissing you at least, then you just pull yourself away. It's a way that you teach him that you're not there anymore if he's not really working the issues together in a way that is respectful and caring with you. Okay. Yeah. And I also have I have other programs, courses, like, for example, the people pleaser rehab, which is a master class, which helps you understand how you might be having some people-pleasing tendencies that you might not even realize that actually makes people take you for granted subconsciously, and you might trigger their taker mode while you are just overgiving and you don't know how to stop this. So this masterclass is really good for this. And the other thing that I have, the relationship rewired, the 6-week connection reset, which is good, for example, for couples. But if you're single, it is also good because it helps you learn what is necessary to build or rebuild, really, the foundation of the relationship. Because what happened to me, for example, when I got divorced, like, before, I was with my ex-husband for 14 years, so 7 years marriage. And we came to the point that we had chronic fights, arguing. We couldn't understand each other, and our needs were really not met, and we were frustrated, sad, and really resentful even towards each other. But we loved each other, actually. And note, we had 2 marriage counselors, and after countless sessions and hundreds of euros spent, we still couldn't really solve it. And only after the divorce and only after a while of learning and etc., that I realized, like, you cannot really talk about things when talking itself is often worsening the dynamic of the fights. So you need to fix the foundation, like the emotional safety, emotional connection, and then, the attraction, etc. You need to fix this first before you can actually have a talk, because our brains were already wired to react in a certain manner. Like, for example, if I went to my ex-husband to talk about something, his brain is already, oh no, here we go again. I need to defend myself. Where are my weapons and, armors and etc. And my brain also, like, oh, here we go again. Like, he wouldn't understand what I would say. Like, I'm really frustrated with him. And, we already have this butting heads energy subconsciously. So talking and talking and talking would not really help the relationship. But you need to really fix the foundation first before you have the serious talk. And even for new couples, when you have a strong foundation, then you are more inclined to work with each other when the issues and the potential conflicts starts to arise. But anyways, yeah, these are a few of my programs and courses, and I hope that they can be helpful for many women in their relationships, because I really put in a lot of the juice of what I learned in my years. And I learned it from my personal experiences, of course. And then because I also took a course of 2 years of modern therapeutic practices, working with somatic practices, trauma, childhood trauma, relational, patterns and all, and then also shamanism. Yeah, so what I learned is like a big pack of many things combined, even my cultural heritage, like partially Asian, partially Portuguese. So all this combined this is the result of my knowledge, the culmination of my knowledge. So I really hope that it helps. And yeah, stay tuned for more.